Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Leanna and today we have a few things I want to talk about. I'm going to update you on my listing strategy and let you know whether I think it's working or not. We're going to talk about tactics that buyers use in order to get their cases approved. And we're going to talk a little bit about business, about just some business thoughts that I've been having going through my brain lately. First off, my listing strategy. I have been listing 50 items for the most part. First week of April, I listed 50 new items. Fantastic. My sales were really good the first week. I was really happy about it. The second week of April, I had a really bad week. I wasn't sleeping well. I only listed 14 items, and that's really low, even on a normal week for me. And my sales were actually kind of low that week. They weren't horrible, but they weren't as great as they were the first week. This past week, the third week of April, as the time of filming is 10 a.m. Friday morning, I'm at 47 listings, brand new listings. I'm excited about that. So I have the rest of the day to get 3 more listings. I'll let you know down below in the comments if I reach there. My sales this week have been pretty good, so I'm happy with the way it's going. For me, I think listing that many is really helping to boost my sales. And a lot of the things that I'm listing are selling. So I'm listing the right things, which is part of listing. It's not just list. It's about listing the right items that are going to sell. So we're coming up into the 4th and final week of April. I'll probably keep on doing 50. I'm good with that. At the end of the month, I'm going to take stock and I'm going to realize whether I can keep up that 50 or whether I'm going to put it down to maybe 40. I do run out of room sometimes, so I have to keep that in mind. But I'll revisit it at the beginning of May and figure out from there. But so far, it's working really well. My sales are pretty consistent with March, and they are a bit higher than they were last April. So I'm looking at the bigger picture, not just day by day or week by week. So far so good. Next, we're going to talk about tactics that buyers seem to be using to get their cases approved. Okay? I'm going to preface this by saying cases happen, and not every buyer that opens a case is trying to scam you. You know what? Sometimes they're just absolutely just disappointed in what they bought and they would like to return. And sometimes Poshmark makes it hard for them to return because there's rules and stuff they have to go through. And we're going to talk about some of the tactics that I have seen, and some of them I've been dealing with, and how I've dealt with them, and, we'll go from there. Okay. The first thing that they try to do is they message you first. I am finding that buyers are using that feature of messaging the seller, and I think they do that to gauge your reaction and to gauge your willingness to take a return. So over the course of the last couple of weeks, I think I've had 2 people message me, which is not a big deal. One worked out fine. We worked it through ourselves and everything is fantastic, and she's happy with her purchase and gave me a 5-star. The other person, they messaged me and said that they felt the sizing was off. It was too small for them. And in this instance, it's like, okay, well, I provide measurements so that, you don't have that problem so much. You have to look at the measurements. And normally when this happens, I would say to them, this is why I provide measurements in all my listings, so that you can compare them and ensure the fit for yourself. And you're more than welcome to repost the item. And it sort of cuts them off at I'm not going to take this return because you didn't read the description. And with this messaging, I do want to really put it in your brains that you do not have to offer a return. You don't. If you are absolutely sure that you've done everything right, do not offer that return in that messaging. You can encourage them to open a case. Well, you're going to have to open a case with Poshmark if you're not happy. And if they do, then you can sort of, go through, this is why I think they shouldn't. In the messaging, nowhere in that messaging should you say that, yes, I will take that return, unless you're absolutely 100% sure that you messed up. Like me with the boots. If you've been around, you know that there was a time a few months ago, I sent a pair of boots and they were 2 different boots. So the person did message me. I totally screwed up. And I just said, yes, open a case. I will definitely accept it. We'll figure this out. In that case, it was okay because I knew I did something wrong. In other cases, when I know that I haven't done something wrong, I will just tell them to open a case. I will not tell them whether or not they'll get me, backing them or whatever. I don't give them that ammunition at all. I think a lot of people will message and find out how the seller will react and make the decision afterwards. If they think it's going to be a fight, they may just drop it and sell the item again themselves. I don't know. That is a tactic that seems to be working for some people, because I think they try to take advantage of sellers who feel bad if something doesn't fit, or feel guilty, or just want to make sure everything is wonderful. I remember my very first case, and that's how I was. I felt so bad that she had purchased this thing and it wasn't the way she liked it. And yes, of course I'll take the return. I wouldn't do that now. And in that case, I would not do that now. I would have fought it a lot differently. But anyway, I do think there are buyers out there who do try to take advantage of people that feel bad. There are no feelings in business. Just remember that. It's always about the item you sold. And if you are confident in the item that you described and what you sent, always ask them to open a case. Knowing that you're confident, that starts with the listing. Make sure that you photograph every part of the item, mention any flaws, and make sure in your description you put measurements and you cover your butt left, right, and center, and then you'll have more confidence when somebody does this. All right, the next thing that they do, the next tactic, and I have to turn my book around. The next tactic that I have been finding, and I have a story from myself and I have a story from somebody else for something. Anyway, first one is when they mention a reason that cannot be proven or disproved. For instance, smell. The item smells. There's a strong odor. There's a whatever odor. That's perspective, I can't say it doesn't smell. It doesn't smell to me. Maybe you're overly sensitive and it does smell, and you know what? That happens. When they mention a thing like that, it's very hard to fight because you really can't disprove it. All you can do is stake your reputation, say, like I would say in this instance, I wash with unscented detergent, I steam everything before it goes out. That's all I can say. You know what? And what Poshmark decides to do with that is up to Poshmark. This is where, Poshmark makes that final decision for the most part. If you want to fight it, if it's the buyer and the seller sort of going at it, Poshmark steps in and they make the decision. We have no choice in that. I did have a case like a while ago now, last summer actually, and from the first, this buyer was annoying and a pain in my butt. Purchased something, changed her mind, canceled it, bundled things, asked a couple of questions, and then bought the bundle. It was just a lot of back and forth. I sent out the bundle quickly because here in Canada, I ship almost every single day. I got a message from this buyer over 2 weeks after I had sent the package, asking me where the package was. Which was a really weird request considering she is a seller, so you know how to check tracking, I would assume. It's like you've been around for a while, you're not brand new, you sell things yourself. But you know what? I checked the tracking, found out that it had been sitting at her post office for 2 weeks, waiting for her to pick it up. So I was like, okay, so I just let her know that. It's at such and such post office, it's waiting there for you to be picked up. They've said that they've sent you notices. Okay, fine. She said, thank you very much, whatever. A week and a half later, she picked it up. A week and a half. So these items have been sitting in plastic in their box for over 3 weeks. She finally picks it up and messages me. So she uses number one tactic. She messaged me and said that one of the tops has a dry clean only care tag. And she wasn't happy about that. And I said, yes, it does. I show pictures of the care tags in my listings because I understand that that could be a decider when you're purchasing. So it's up there. If you didn't read it, too bad. Then she messaged me and said, oh, hun, but they also have a musty smell. Number one, don't call me hun. That is very condescending. That is another tactic where they try to make you feel smaller and unsure of yourself. Number 2, they sat in the post office for 3 weeks in the middle of August. So all I said to her was, open a case. Now, it turns out you can't prove, right? You cannot prove smell. So Poshmark closed the case, refunded her money. She got to keep all the items, and I got my money. I don't love this resolution because to me, she got free clothing. Just saying. But that's how I handled it. I didn't let her get to me. I didn't let her put me on a lower level than she was because she's not. And I can only fight back with what I can fight back with. You know what? I don't think it should smell. I think they smelled because of this, but whatever. Another thing that has been coming up lately, and it is in the same way, it's something that really can't be proven for the most part, is the item is not authentic. So, it's an interesting concept because we all know that when you have higher end items, it is probably better and stronger for your listing if you do get them authenticated. Absolutely 100%. But this happened to me just this week. I sold a pair of frame denim jeans. I sent them out. They went out. She got them Monday. She opened a case Tuesday morning. Okay, saying, number 1, that they were fake because Frame doesn't print on the inside of their pockets and the stitching was really messy. And by the way, the size is wrong. These are much smaller than my real Frame, same size. I'm like, okay, so in my head, I'm thinking they didn't fit you and this is your way of getting a return. Okay, so she used 2 tactics, which I'm going to get to the last tactic she used too, but this whole not authentic thing. Well, because I buy secondhand, and honestly I don't think frame denim is faked all that much. When I did a Google search about frame denim, not a lot came up. You know, you could put in Louis Vuitton fake and you get bombarded, you know, with millions of hits of, you know, videos and blogs and articles about how to tell a fake Louis Vuitton. I put in frame denim faked and nothing came up. Nothing. And the only thing that we could find was frame denim, for the most part, on most of their styles, have the logo engraved into their buttons, which mine did. So after I did that research, I made a statement in the case because I think it's really important to actually acknowledge and respond to cases. I'll get to that when we talk about business. Anyway, I did reply and said, from my research, this is what I think. They're not fake. And I talked about the statement about size. How I take measurements, there's measurements in the listings, and my measurements coincide and are consistent with the size tag in the jeans. Poshmark, I wait your answer. I always talk to Poshmark. Very seldom do I actually talk to the buyer. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So she came back, again, whatever. Cases, I will say this, they did resolve this case fairly quickly, so I was kind of happy about that. But they solved it in her favor. So she gets her money back. She has to send me my pants back, which is good. In fact, I'd much prefer them approve the case and me get my item back than have her get refunded and be able to keep the item. So I'm kind of happy about the resolution in some ways. But when you have a case and it gets finished, they send you an email to tell you what it is. In the email, it states that because the item cannot be proven to be authentic, they're approving the case. Unless you are the original owner, or have the original receipt, or have them authenticated, you can't prove it, so therefore we're approving the case. They're a pair of $50 jeans, resale. Why would I spend $10 extra to get them authenticated? I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm going to say the majority of my items do not get authenticated in that sense. When I sold a pair of Christian Louboutins, I did get them authenticated because they're not something I'm used to. And it was well worth the $15 because they sold for over $300. Anyway, this opens up a whole big concern for me because as someone who predominantly sources secondhand, I'm not the original owner. I will not have the original receipt. How are we supposed to fight this? Or are we just going to get a whole bunch of stuff back because the person's not happy it didn't fit or something? It opens up a big concern for me. One thing I will say about this is another story about authentication. And this is not my story. This has nothing to do with me. Somebody had sold a Coach purse, and the buyer opened a case saying it was fake. The seller had the receipt from the Coach outlet store. Sent that off saying, yep, you know what, they're authentic. I bought it at the Coach outlet. Here's the receipt, whatever. Poshmark still approved the case because it was bought at the outlet. Well, Coach outlet doesn't sell fake Coach, so that makes no sense to me. That's a little bit concerning. I don't want to say scary because it's not scary. It's a little bit concerning with that type of tactic, because there are certain things that we as sellers aren't going to be able to prove, and I'm not going to authenticate every single last item that I list. Okay, I'm just not going to do it. So I don't think this happens a lot. I just want you to be aware. And in my case, I am glad that I'm getting the pants back. At least I'm supposed to be getting the pants back. So far, they have not started tracking. I did email and ask Posh support how long they have to send them. And they said usually we give them 2 days to ship it back, barring any unforeseen circumstances like natural disasters. But if they haven't had any tracking by, I think it's next Friday, I think the 28th, they're going to release my funds to me. So I'll see what happens. I'll get my pants back, make sure they're my pants and everything's fine with them, and then I'm just going to move on. Yeah, so authentication is another way that buyers are using to get that, oh, that didn't fit, back to you. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Just be aware of it. The last tactic that I want to talk about, and this is the most important one in my books, and I actually did deal with this frame denim case, and that is anger and intimidation. Oh my gosh, I have never been spoken to on any platform like this person spoke to me in this statement, how I was a scammer and how these were awful and how what a terrible seller I was and all these things. And when that happens to you, my advice is to not engage with that person, because that's not worth it. I am not getting into a back and forth with a buyer that is angry and calling me names. I will talk to Poshmark, which is what I did. I directed my statement at Poshmark. I talked about the item, and that was it. That felt good to me. I felt like I was being professional and still getting my point across. When I did that, the buyer came back even harder at me. How these were awful fake pants, how I'm scamming them, and oh, I'm such a scammer, and you can have them back so you can scam other people, and very aggressive. And I didn't want to, again, I'm not getting into that. I wanted to call her a freaking cow, but I didn't. I just said, Poshmark, unless you have any other questions for me, I'm leaving this in your hands, because that's just bad. So that's fine. In the email that they send you about the case, at the bottom, in the reply section, you can actually agree with the resolution, disagree with the resolution, and there was a third option. And you can reply to this case, which I did. First of all, I said I did not agree with the resolution because, you know, I gave proof. She didn't prove that they were fake. She didn't prove they were fake. She just said they were fake. And I had a little bit more saying, hey, I think they're real, than she had about they were actually fake. I said I think it was about the size, blah, blah, blah. And in this email, I told them about the way that she spoke to me. She was insolent and she was disrespectful. And I hope that they put a note on her account, because you shouldn't be allowed to do that. That is wrong on all counts. So being angry at the seller is a tactic that they use so that you feel bad, you feel guilty, you feel scared, that you just want it to go away. Yep, I'll accept it, go away, kind of thing. It doesn't work all the time. It doesn't work on me. Without getting into anything too much, I have dealt with people like that in my life, and I just don't stand for it anymore. I just know how to deal with it, and I deal with it. But if you're a newer seller and somebody comes at you like that, it's very difficult to not take it personally. But you really, the number one rule is you need to learn that it's about the item and not you as a person. And you're not responsible for what somebody else sort of thinks of you as a person. They cannot like your item all they want. It's a freaking item. Who cares? But they cannot attack you personally. Do not engage these people as much as you want to. And believe me, I wanted to. Don't engage. It does not do you any good. And I do believe that Poshmark takes note of how you deal with cases and how you deal with other people. I do think that they take that into effect. Yeah. Anyway, right. Moving on, we're going to talk about diversifying and some business thoughts that I have. So, for the past few weeks, with my dealings with Poshmark, it just makes my decision to be diversified that much easier and that much smarter. I don't want to rely on one platform. I just don't like having all my eggs in one basket. I do want to have options. And I think it's really important to have options, especially when the platforms that you use may be going in a different direction than you like. So, I think listing on multiple platforms opens up your market, which is always a good thing. And no. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with a few business thoughts. Some about diversifying, some about Poshmark, some about eBay. If you are cross-listing onto eBay, if you are newer at it, always respond to customers, because eBay does pay attention and eBay expects you as the seller to deal with it. Always remember that. Do not take bad habits from one platform to another, because platforms are different. eBay will get you, and you don't want them to, because if you get kicked off of eBay, you are kicked off of eBay. So keep that in mind if you are diversifying. I think it's really important to have multiple platforms. I don't know what we would do if we would just rely on one. Even though our eBay does much more than Poshmark, it's got some issues still there, and I find the return policy still a little bit for me, especially with clothing, because buyers have 30 days to return an item, and I don't like that. But I'm cross-listing more and more over there because I'm becoming more and more disillusioned with Poshmark. Over the last couple of weeks, with having to deal with some support, which honestly, I think Poshmark support is bots. It's AI. I think there are very few real people answering questions, and I find that really irritating. Because we spend 20% of our, 20% fees are pretty high. Why am I getting canned responses? I don't like that. I feel disrespected as a seller. I don't feel that being a seller is important. My thinking. So I am cross-listing more over to eBay because I am becoming disillusioned. I'm not a big fan of the social aspect of Poshmark. I know it's there. I know it's there for a reason. I know that some people actually absolutely love it, and that's fine. It's up to you. This is my opinion. My opinion is it's fluff, and it doesn't matter to my business. Yes, I know if you what's the word when you mingle and there's a word and I can't think of it. Of course, every video. I am not good at that. Period. I've never been good at schmoozing, ever. But I know that you can build connections and that can help your business. I understand that. But for me, doing all this and having PFFs, and I don't know, there's just something about it that just rings very high school and fluff to me, and I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it. I think it breeds this sort of environment of mean girls and popular and cool kids, and I just don't like it. It's not about business. It's more about who can like me. It's a popularity contest. And I don't think business is necessarily like that in that sort of way. I want to build my business because people like what I sell, they like how I sell it, and they like my integrity. That's how I want to build my business, not being the cheerleader for Poshmark. I was a cheerleader in high school. Go figure, right? I really was, and yeah, I would not want to go back there at all. Anyway, I understand that that's what Poshmark is. It's just something that over the last 6 months has just really been irritating me and disillusioning me with the platform. They spend so much money on contests and on Posh Party Lives where, you know what, they fly people across the country back and forth, and they rent these beautiful places, and they have, you know, beautiful little finger foods and drinks and stuff, and that's great. And I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just, is it necessary? And I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a nice thing, and I think if you have access to one, you should actually experience it for sure, because you can meet people, and that would be a good thing. But that money that they spend, and I think they do this like 2-3 times a year, plus PoshFest. So they travel across the country 2 or 3 times a year at least. They have these parties that really only benefit the few of those people that have access to them. Now, they do go to the major cities, which makes sense, but I'm not traveling 3.5 hours one way to go to a party for 2 hours and come back home. It's just not going to work for me. So anyway, all that money that they spend on all these things, I think could be better spent. As a business, I would rather see upgrades to the app. I would like to see more data, more concrete data in the app. I would like to see features that actually work, that people actually use. That's what I would like to see. I would also like to see a huge improvement in Posh support. Right now, Posh support is crap. Out and out, hands down, it is crap. For the most part, I think it's AI or bots answering Posh support questions, cases. I think they're picking up keywords and that's all they're going by. I pretty much guarantee that most of the time I contact Posh support, a real person is not reading that email. Most of the time. I did have somebody, I emailed Posh support after that case was closed to ask how long the person had to return the item. And they did get back to me within 24 hours, which was good. And it did sound like it was a real person that answered my question. So that was good. But that does not happen very often. I think it's really crap. And I think instead of flying around the country, throwing parties and going, yay, Poshmark, yay, Poshmark, you need to focus on what is going to keep your sellers happy and what is going to keep your buyers happy. Because that's the bottom line. And in closing, any platform, they're in this for the money as well. If their bottom line starts to fall, then things are going to change. So remember that. Having loyalty to the platform is fine, but really your loyalty is to your business. It's your business. You use the platforms to sell your items. That's it. There should be no loyalty to a platform. My opinion. What do you guys think? That is it. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. I'll let you know whether I make it to 50 or not down below in the comments. Anyway, everybody have a good one. Bye.